love with. And over and over. So it takes a lot of redoing. I just saw Gray yesterday take this beautiful piece of Supergirl. Her face was gorgeous. And he's like, I'm just going to scratch that and I'm going to start over. And he did this even greater piece of Supergirl. But it's that process. Not being afraid of that process and failing and practicing. And just don't compare yourself to artists too bad. It's great when you're raising the bar for yourself because you want to be just as good. Like, take it as inspiration, but not like you couldn't be as good.
Right. That's good. That's excellent, man. This is awesome. You know, you guys really hit the nail on the head talking about creativity and something that it really struck me. And I'm going to just make a little comment, but next I'm going to ask you if you have any questions. So think of your questions, please. But the comment I want to make is kind of like the similarity between the creative and the scientific methods. And artists learn how to ride the wave. Like, you have these creative moments where you're like a surfer, you're on top of the wave, and then you've got these others where you're waiting for that wave. Well, science can learn a lot from that. I mean, it takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, and it takes, like you said, the experimentation. Every time you try something new, it's like you're in kindergarten again. And that takes a lot of courage to be able to have that awareness to keep on doing that. And so that's another way that science can learn from art, right? That's something that scientists, or that, artists have. So what are your questions? Do you have any final questions? We've talked about inspiration. We've talked about their careers. Talked about why they're here at Otronicon. Anybody have any other questions? Yeah.
So I know at least one of the people here are artists for a living, like your primary job is being an artist. So was that always the case? And if so, what are the steps that you guys went from working a regular job to becoming an artist for a living?
And are you directing it to anyone in particular, or the whole family?
I already know one of the people can answer this question, but I want to hear from everyone.
Okay. All right, let's start on the other side. Let's give you a break, right?
Make it quick.
Hurry up, we're looking at it.
Make it quick.
Numbers. We're looking at it.
I think I could say that everybody on this panel our full-time job is being an artist. I mean, some people might not think that, like, maybe graphic design is an art job, but it is. We have to be creative. We have to, understand what we're designing when we do graphic design. You have to understand art to do that, and that's still an art job. Yeah,
I think some of the discrepancy might be where if you're a freelancer and you work from home, and instead of working in a corporation in an office environment, sometimes there's a disconnect where one's just almost like a hobby or a side job, and then the other's a full-time real job with art. And for me personally, I'm busier than I've ever been in my life working for myself, and it's also the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. Please.
You stealing my spotlight.
I just remembered what I was going to say.
Works for me.
So yeah, graphic design for me is my full-time job, but then I do the stuff that I love, like the fan art or like my own, paintings or whatever, on the side. And this is a little joke that I always tell all my friends, that if I don't do that kind of art that I love, I'll go insane. I'll literally
it's a great
insane.
joke.
It's true. And it's like, I don't know, I would hate art if I didn't do what I love. So you have to have that kind of space for you to do the stuff that you love, or you're gonna end up just doing what you have to do to just make money, and it's not gonna be like something that you love anymore. It's just going to be a job.
It just takes a life out of it. It just sucks the love out of it, all of it. When I was in school, it was the same thing where I had to do assignment after assignment. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Go.
Can y'all hear me? I thought I was speaking okay.
Send the mic to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we're back to the mic.
You can't talk without the mic.
I can't, but he can, of course. Anyways, so I had to do assignment after assignment. And it was very draining, and it wasn't necessarily things that I loved because it was whatever the professor was asking us to do, required to do. So then I started painting shoes or started doing art on the side of whatever I was inspired of, just to keep that love for it going and to have that outlet of de-stress of, okay, I still do love this. I still want to do this. Because the difference between the job, you know, sometimes you will get to work really cool things like Universal or commission work that you enjoy. And if you're working for a company whose mission you really like, then you'll probably really enjoy working there. But sometimes you won't. Sometimes you just gotta do what you're asked to do. And sometimes the design decisions aren't what you would have wanted them to be. And that's when, you know, you gotta like center yourself back with where it all started.
I'll be last. It's cool.
You last?
I'm good.
Question was directed to me.
I don't think any of us. I don't think any of us have actually touched on what the question was exactly. Like, I feel like
That's
it's
right.
like a roundabout.
Totally deviated.
But, no, like as far as the day job to full-time artist and how that all started and how we got into this and everything. My path personally has been super winding. I was in the music industry for a bunch of years, and prior to that, I went to art school. My entire life, I wanted to be an artist, and there was a massive shift in my life while I was in art school that led me to actually just walk away from it. And then once I kind of had, you know, a few years dabbling around with music, then I ended up getting to work with companies like Hot Topic and Warner Brothers and like all this stuff, and that led me back into art, and I was able to transfer into, you know, just being a professional artist from there. So I mean, my position is, it's such a, like, it's not the norm. It's so unorthodox, like the way I ended up in art. Doing that led me to building my portfolio, and I was able to land a corporate job when I was done with music and everything like that. So I actually worked from, like, going from a tour bus to a cubicle within a 2-month span, and I spent 4 years there. You know, like just doing corporate work, and I mean, corporate entities and product branding, and you know, the business cards and brochures and everything like that, which is like as polar opposite from what I was doing. And then eventually that ran its course, and I got back into doing just more, you know, like freelance stuff and things like that. But the one thing I noticed was that as long as I put the work in, there was no difference. You know, because as long as I was being productive and as long as I was able to generate something, it didn't matter if I was making money for somebody else with my artwork, or I was just doing it for myself at a show like this, or if it was like some kind of, you know, joint effort between me and a corporation and I. It's all the same thing. So I mean, while the platform might be a little bit different, and the recipient of the art might be a little different, and the terms of the job might be a little bit different, the fact that I'm able to invest myself into what it is that the final product is going to be is where I find the most satisfaction from. Because at the end of the day, as long as I'm being productive, I'm a happy individual. You know, and the fact that, you know, I get to doodle essentially to make that living occur is like, it's, you know, it's definitely something that if you've got any kind of artistic inclination whatsoever, even if it's just like a flicker of a flame inside you, that there's something that you feel like you should be doing. You know, like I wish I could do this, or I on a daily basis we've got people coming to us, oh, I wish I could draw as good as you can. Anybody can do, you might not be able to do the same thing that Barrett does, or, you know, to the degree that he does, but you can do something that you are capable of doing for a living. You just have to be able to, you have to get over the fear of failure. You need that failure. Failure leads to growth, like you were saying earlier. Without those failures, you don't know what it is you're capable of winning at. So you, like the failures, like failure after failure, especially in the workforce, is like that kind of clears the palette for you. And you make it through there, and you realize, I'm not dead. I made it through all that. Let me see, you know, where I can take this.
Passion and practice. I think
Yeah.
those are the two.
And I think something that
Barry.
Barrett. Barrett was saying, no, that was something you said earlier.
Barrett.
Barrett, I'm just like, what was the name?
I deny it.
I'm sorry.
Barrett.
So he was talking about commercial art earlier and going into the field and learning a lot, and I think that's also very important, is that yes, it is possible to work from home, and yes, it is possible to land a job at a corporation, but it takes that learning and experiencing it to get there, to have a portfolio. So it's a lot of effort, it is a lot of work to get people to see the potential that you have and to fall in love with what you have to offer. Because we're all here showing stuff that we enjoy making, and then it's just that happy coincidence that we have people that come to our table and are like, I really enjoy that. And it's just getting there just takes all of that time and effort and being productive. So just drawing once a week or a couple of times a month isn't enough. It takes a lot of, meeting other artists and talking to people like at events here where you can find corporations that can show you and talk to you about how art can be utilized in their field, in their company. So that's something I wanted to talk about. No, but you want it back?
Oh.
Sorry.
Do you have a quick,
All right, so-
quick one, Humphrey? Oh, you haven't even gone yet. Because do we have
Well,
like,
the question was directed
1
to me.
minute?
I'll be real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started out of necessity. That's why all I do is just this. I had a job, I had a good job, good paying job, but life has a funny way of turning things around. So I ended up having severe anxiety with PTSD and panic disorder. So I had to get retired from my job. Because I used to work for TSA. So yeah, when you have all that, you can't really secure all the airlines and all that stuff. So out of necessity, I needed to find something. And I was really into art. I liked it. I've always done it since I was a kid, but I never got serious about it. So I took the leap. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I'll tell you right now. It is the hardest thing. From going from a secure position to having secure money, to having health insurance, to having everything. It is the scariest thing you'll ever do. It's taking that leap. And with me, life took that leap for me. And it pushed me off the edge, and well, I had to survive. So I did what I had to do. And I got into it, and I just keep pushing, and I've been doing it for, March will be 3 years. And I just keep pushing, and it's worked out. I've gotten lucky, I've gotten really lucky with a bunch of the stuff, but I also I've had that perseverance. And that's why I always say, like, if you really want to get into it, there's nothing that can stop you to get into it. You just got to pull yourself out, you got to do it. Sometimes you got to dust yourself off. You will fail a lot. I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. You will fail, you will fall, you will scrape yourself, you will get dirty and everything, but if you keep going forward, you'll be good. I mean, it is what it is, You can't just hold yourself down because life decided to kick you, So yeah.
you guys are really inspiring, and Warren, I really want to thank you for sharing that. And also, no, seriously, I think that you guys demonstrate a lot of courage. And I encourage all of you to come outside and talk to the artists. They've got their booth on the on this floor, and also 4th, and there are 2 on the 3rd floor. Interact with our artists. As an Otronicon advisory board member, I'm very happy that you guys participate on this panel. Thank you very much. We thank you very, very much. Let's give them a hand. And thank you for coming. Appreciate it. All right, have a good show, everybody.